today Shri DP Mathuriya ji. He is the Executive Director, Technical, and he is the Director of National Mission for Clean Ganga, and which is the Ministry of Jal Shakti, one of the flagship program of Department of Water Resources and under river development and Ganga rejuvenation focus. And the session here is, we all have been talking about Giriraj Goyal ji has talked about 3 flagship program of the ministry, and another a very, very big one is here. And so he's going to talk about the initiative, actions, what has been done and what is the plan altogether. And Dr. Shri Mathuriya ji is the officer of Central Water Engineering Services. And from last 23 years, he has been working in the water sector at the central government level. And the important part is he has been working towards also pollution abatement in municipal and industrial sector in River Ganga Basin and implementation of the e-flow regime, sand mining and R&D research and all together. So in this all more or less, Shri Mathuriya ji, I also have similar 23 years of experience, and the kind of scale that you have, kind of implemented, looked into, is amazing. The CV, the profile that you have shared, it says quite a lot. And he has been working on team and investigations on water resources development, hydro project development, both in Northeast India and in Nepal. And the DPRs he has prepared on medium and major irrigation project, flood control, there are a lot of questions were there, and multi-purpose project and monitoring on the central assistance programs that he has done. So I don't think so we could have got a better person than Shri Mathuriya ji for talking about what is really the program all about. So these are, as we discussed yesterday, we have with us youth who have been from different parts of the country, and they are all from environment sciences background, environmental engineering background, management background, water governance and all other issues. And so since yesterday we have this 3 days of orientation program, and in the second day they are now trying to understand the policy. And before you, we had National Institute of Urban Affairs had taken them through a overall understanding on the urban issues of water. So, sir, without much of further delay, I'm handing over the forum to you. And if you want us to run the presentation, we can do that. If you want to do that, is perfectly fine. And question answer, how do you want to take it later when you finish the presentation, or in the chat you want them to post? As you can decide, sir. Thank you and welcome, sir. Yeah, so you're muted. Yeah.
Thank you for my introduction before the young fellows, and in fact, it is an opportunity for me to present so many things. I mean, multifarious facets of the water, which has captured the imagination of everyone since ages, no? And I welcome the group which I've been told comprises of graduates and postgraduates and PhD fellows with specialization in environmental engineering, in governance, and so many wide variety of the subjects. I intend to, in fact, I have got a presentation. I thought I'll run through the presentation also, and it gives you a context to speak on the points, number one. And then I also propose to have a small interaction after the presentation. So I'll run through the presentation for about 20 minutes, and then we can open up for interaction. And there is another constraint. I have got a meeting with the Indo-Netherlands Fora at 1:30. So I'll close this thing at 1:15. Apologies on that count, else we could have continued. I'd love to do that. Maybe we can continue on some other occasion. So presentation you will be sharing at your end, ma'am, or shall I do it?
So we can do that. Just give us a second. We will share the presentation. Yeah.
Okay, please do that. So in fact, when it comes to water, water happens to be a subject which which has cross-cutting implications among different, governing ministries and organizations. You name it, and water is always there. Any infra development sector, you name it, water is always there. And that is how the impacts on water and the sources of water are so explicit. They are so visible to us to appreciate everywhere. And why this has become such an issue as at present, this is another point which has to be looked into. Yeah, we'll have afterwards. Okay, I'll call you. Uh, with the pace of development, urbanization into which we have been through, the most impacted natural resources happen to be the water. This has been on account of our own, hydrological cycle, or our own resource availability. That is the reason it brings us to various facets of water which focus on rejuvenation of these water sources. So I'll start with something which is said to be some synoptic figures about water resources in the country. India has about 17% of the world population, but it has hardly 4% of the water resources. And the issue is that as per the global water quality index, we rank pretty bad. In fact, majority of our sources happens to be contaminated for a variety of the reasons. There are probably one of the reasons is that it has not been our focus and priority subject. And another issue is, among our sources of the water, one very unvisible source on which we always rely is groundwater, and this has been the source which has been depleting at a rate which is unsustainable, and this is happening over last few years for various user sectors. So far as our own availability scenario is concerned, we get and out be utilized in one form or other. But so in that terms, we are not water scarce. So the problem is the management of this resource so that it remains sustainable, it remains to be used for the purpose it is, including for the rivers. So can you flip over to the next slide, please? Yeah. Now, as I was saying, we have abundance of the water. The issue is management. I hope there'll be a few other speakers who will be focusing on how this resource is being utilized. When I say water resource, it means something which can be used for benefit of the humans. But often what happens is, when we utilize this resource, we often neglect the rights of the rivers and the water bodies. We should contain some amount of water. A river, an entity which doesn't have water, or an entity which doesn't have a flowing water, it cannot be called a river. A river is something which flows. So our problem is, during some part of the year, when it doesn't rains, the rivers are left with very less amount of the water because of competitive use of the water. Now what happens is, during this period of the crisis, whatever might be the reasons for the crisis, we are left with very less of the water, and this impacts our water bodies, our river systems. You see, if I look at the river stretches, as on date, about 351 river stretches in the country have been categorized as polluted stretches in terms of biochemical oxygen demand. So this is an enormous figure. This has caught the imagination of everyone. NGT, institutions, state governments, everyone has been, they're pooling their resources to look at this problem. Please, next. Yeah. So why should this issue of conserving our water bodies is important? See, so far as our land mass is concerned, 3.5% of the land mass is covered in the water bodies. So if these water bodies and these entities they doesn't remain pristine and pure, will be left with very, very bad kind of scenario. See, I'll just quote from a very, I'll just give you a small example. In 2019, Honorable Prime Minister from the ramparts of Red Fort, he launched Jal Jeevan Mission, which aimed at providing drinking water, safe drinking water to every household through a piped water supply and, in fact, a functional tap connection to every rural household. And the quantity estimations were to provide drinking water to around 19.19 crore of the households. This is an enormous figure. Now, if my sources of water from which I'll be providing the water, they become contaminated, my entire program is going to fail. I mean, it is very easy to lay pipelines through a plumbing mechanism, but it is very difficult to sustain it, these infrastructure in a long run unless I do have the clean sources of water. So it is very, very important to have the source sustainability. And because our own sanitation, food, aesthetics, soil conditions, everything will depend on these water sources. Next, please. And coming to Ganga Basin, because I've been asked to speak from National Mission for Clean Ganga, I'll be making my thought contextual to Ganga Basin. Ganga Basin, as whenever the name River Ganga comes, it reverberates to every artery and vein of our body. It is something which we have been taught is a very holy river, and we worship it. But other than that, if we look at the statistics, see, it is a river which is driving the economy of this part of the country. About 43% of the population it is supporting in one way or other, socio-economy of this population. And then in the Ganga Basin, about 50% of the country's net irrigation potential exists. And it also accounts for about 28% of the country's water resources. In fact, the total aggregate water resource from the Ganga is about Ganga Basin is 525 billion cubic meters. So that is very, very enormous compared to 1869 BCM for the entire country. So it happens to a very, very important basin. Next, please. If you look at the Ganga head stream or Ganga Basin, there are three major, we can divide it into three major categories geographically. First is upper stretch of the Ganga, which is hilly stretch, second is middle, and third is lower. So each of these stretches has its own problem. Upper, the rivers are fast flowing, they have a very high head gradients, deep gorges, so hydro potential is enormous, river waters are generally pure. Middle, highly populated rivers, the geomorphology is very flat, river meanders, and this middle portion is characterized by the problem of high pollution loads in the river. And the lower stretch river again is in the braided form, a deltaic river, and it has other kind of the problems like siltation and fecal coliform, etc. So this is geographically, if you look at the Ganga Basin, these are three stretches in which we usually categorize it. Next, please. Next, please. And when we say Ganga and threats to the Ganga, there are various sources of pollution in the river. You see, first and foremost is excessive amount of water which is taken from the river for various uses. For example, irrigation. At Haridwar itself, Bhimgauda Barrage, about 80% of the river water flow is diverted for irrigation. This leaves very less amount of the water. And then we have seen the tragedy of 2008-2013 when a lot of pilgrimages to Char Dham Yatra, they suffered on account of sudden rains. This was impact of tourism, in fact. And then there are problems: solid waste, unsustainable development on the floodplains, effluents from the industries, increasing urban agglomeration pressures on the river, open defecation problems, sewerage from the municipalities and industries also, and also encroachment of the floodplains, which happens to be very important entities, very important components, which aid in recharge of the groundwater. Next, please. So against these threats, Ganga River Basin Management Plan was prepared through a consortium of 7 IITs, and this plan was to look for the holistic development as well as to restore the wholesomeness of the river. And this plan envisaged 3 key components to restore the wholesomeness of the river. First, we call it Nirmal Dhara, I mean unpolluted flow. Then continuity of the flow through Aviral Dhara, and then ensuring the geological and ecological integrity of the river. Somebody said earlier the issues of the mining, etc. So they can be clubbed in this particular component. Next, please. So this was the vision of GRBNP, and accordingly, in fact, if I take you back to the history when it started, concerted actions started for acting on Ganga. It started with Ganga Action Plan 1 in 1985. It was followed by Ganga Action Plan 2, followed by National River Conservation Plan in 1995, and then a National Ganga River Basin Authority came in 2009. And then in 2014, Government of India declared a Namami Gange mission, a program worth 20,000 crores for 5-year duration to look at the restoration of wholesomeness of the river. In fact, this program learned a lot from the failures of the past. In fact, I'll not call it failures of the past, but it learned a lot from the shortcomings that were noticed in the earlier plan programs, and tried to close that gap so that a multifarious, multifaceted, and holistic plan is in place to look at the problems of the river and its rejuvenation. Next, please. Now this next, please. So what happened was, with this plan, there were some institutional arrangements that were invented through a subordinate legislation, River Ganga Rejuvenation Protection and Management Authority Order of 2016. It was notified in October 2016, and what it said, it is very important if you look from the policy perspective. It said that the river shall be managed as a single basin entity. Endeavor should be to restore chemical, biological, physical properties and the qualities of the river. The effort should be towards ecological sustainable management of the basin. Continuity of the flows in the river has to be maintained. Longitudinal, lateral, vertical continuity has to be restored while managing the rivers. Relationship between surface and subsurface component has to be restored and maintained. A lot of focus on vegetation, lot of focus on aquatic and riparian biodiversity, which happens to be in the river and it needs to be conserved. A reinvented focus on regulation in river floodplain zone, and over and above, a whole lot of public participation in creating awareness towards these activities. These are the focuses of this management authority, this authority order 2016. Next, please. And through this institutional mechanism, what was done was, not only an institutional authority was created to look after Ganga, but also the authority was given some, some financial autonomy also. For example, the authority was given powers to sanction the projects worth 1,000 crores. It was given a lot of autonomy. It was also given power under Environmental Protection Act Section 5 to act against the defaulters, and so on and so forth. And then it had a participatory role in a form that there's a National Ganga Council chaired by Honorable PM, followed by State Ganga Council, then district committees, district Ganga committees. So a three-tiered mechanism was there, and a secretariat in form of National Mission for Clean Ganga at center and State Mission for Clean Ganga in the states was established. So an entire federal setup for management of Ganga Basin for its rejuvenation was invented through this authority notification. Now, if I look at previous efforts and this Namami Gange efforts, see, as I was saying, it led to learning from the previous gaps, previous shortcomings. For example, we have been building earlier programs focused on the urban centers. For example, construction of assets in form of STPs or CTPs, but there was no dedicated mechanism to look after operation and maintenance of those things. So a focused Long-term operation maintenance funding was 100% funding through central component was provided. There was an advent of public-private partnership, PPP partnership in as a business model for the projects. As I was saying, away from apart from STP construction, a lot of focus on biodiversity, environmental flows, afforestation, wetland conservation, solid waste management, sustainable agriculture, organic farming. These have been the core. These have been some of the new areas into which the focus has been there, and then a lot of RD. And then there has been a new component wherein river-centric urban planning was also made one of the focus area. And 2041 Delhi Master Plan is an apt example of that. It has in fact focused on the green and blue component in the river in the urban master plans. Next, please. So as I was saying, under Namami Gange interventions, we have been looking at Nirmal Ganga, we have been looking at Aviral, we have been looking at Gyan Ganga, which looks at R&D and policy issues. We have been looking at Jan Ganga, People River Connect, and this happens to be very important. And this entirely, this vision fits into a Ganga rejuvenation vision. So we have taken about 330 projects worth about 4 billion, and about 150 of these projects are nearing completion. They include R&D studies also. They include hardcore sewerage infrastructure projects also. Next, please. And when I was saying Nirmal Ganga, I have in fact said that the focus is on pollution abatement, focus is on municipalities, focus is on creation of sewerage infrastructure, focus is on industrial pollution abatement and management, focus is also on reuse of the treated wastewater, rural sanitation also, and solid waste management. Next, please. In Aviral Dhara, this slide shows the mapping of sewerage infrastructure projects under Namami Ganga in the Ganga basin on the main stem of the Ganga, and green dots are showing the projects that have been completed, whereas yellow dots are showing which are under construction. So virtually through planning studies, we have almost populated the entire urban local bodies on the main stem of Ganga with the sewerage infrastructure projects. Next, please. Yeah, next. Yeah. Now, if I come to hardcore sewerage infrastructure projects, there are 157 sewerage infrastructure projects on Ganga and its tributaries. I'll do that. On its tributaries. And if you look at the green line, you see earlier there were 28 projects prior to 2014, and thereafter 129 additional projects were taken up, worth 4,900 MLD of sewerage treatment capacity is to be created. So there is a jump in leaps and bounds in terms of the asset creation. See, when we say pollution, about municipal, our sewage, municipalities, they contribute about 80% of the pollution load into the river, and about 12 to 15% is from the industrial sector, and the rest is from the distributed sources. So when 80% of the pollution is coming from the municipalities, the technical interventions shall have to be focused, and major focus and input has to be to address that one component through scientific and technical interventions. And that has been our thought process also, and accordingly I have said that we have 157 sewerage projects for the Ganga and its tributaries, and about 50% of them are nearing completion, and in another 1.5 years, almost all those projects will be completed, and they shall be performing. In fact, the important thing is that there is a dedicated funding for operation and maintenance of these assets for another 15 years period. So that whatever is being created, it remains sustainable to continue to function for in the way it has been conceptualized. Next, please. Yeah. One important business model that we have adopted is public under PPP model for these sewerage interventions is hybrid annuity based model. In fact, this is a performance linked model, and this has been done to ensure that the assets continue to perform satisfactorily. Now, what the essence of the model is that we are paying only 40% of the capital cost to the concessionaire at the completion of COD, and then for the next 15 years during the O&M, we are paying the quarterly O&M component along with the interest, etc. And it is again linked to the performance only. So that is one major shift. So this is a shift from earlier programs. And then another component we have introduced is one city, one operator. There is a single window kind of solution for an urban agglomerate. For example, for Kanpur, for entire Kanpur, there is one concessionaire who is looking after all the sewerage infrastructure projects in the town. So that one entity remains responsible for the ills or the betterment of the society. So for the city. So this entails integration of all greenfield as well as brownfield projects. So these new practices have been introduced and they have been very encouraging. The response have very encouraging. Next, please. We can skip this. This was one of the example. In fact, in Kanpur there is one nala which was about 125 years old. Sisamai nala. It was tapped its entire sewage was taken to the existing STPs as well as new STPs. Now, so for the entire Kanpur city, we have a one concessionaire who looks after all the sewerage districts, as well as he is involved in all the greenfield as well as brownfield projects for the city. Next, please. Next, please. And this slide is showing some of the interventions, sewerage interventions on the tributaries of Ganga. Earlier slide was focusing on Ganga and its tributaries. This is focusing on the tributaries. So in the first phase, we prioritized our actions on the Ganga main stem and important tributaries, and then we also concentrated on other tributaries. For example, we have concentrated on Saryu, Yamuna, Kali East, Kali West, Hindon, and also Kosi and Gandak and this West Bengal, Burdwan and Asansol, these towns. So our larger focus has been main stem in the tributaries because we are catering to the entire Ganga basin. Next, please. These are some of the pictures and photographs of the assets that have been created. Now, out of these assets, these sewerage assets, these STPs that have been created, entire sewerage infrastructure for Uttarakhand town has been completed except for 2 projects, and the results are that the water quality of the river Ganga in Uttarakhand happens to be of the best quality. So and this story is these achievements are to be replicated in near future in other states also. Next, please. So these are some of the photographs. Upper one is the photograph of Sisamau Nala, which was visited by Honorable Prime Minister also when it was tapped. 140 MLD Dinapur STP at Varanasi, 80 MLD STP of Naini at Prayagraj, and then Karmalichak STP at Patna, Bhatpara STP at West Bengal. So these are the projects which have been completed, running successfully. Next, please. Now, industrial pollution abatement. Industries happen to be characterized by very high loads of pollution. So what has been done is that we have first of all inventorized all the grossly polluting industries in the Ganga basin, and we have ensured that all these industries GPIs are annually inspected, not only by Central Pollution Control Board and State Pollution Control Board, but also by independent institutes of repute, for example, IITs, NITs, and CSIR institutes. And this is an annual feature. Now, repeatability of inspection, surveillance inspection has been ensured, and this has led to increase in compliance. Earlier, for example, in 2016-18, only 51% of the industries were compliant to the environmental norms. Of late, these compliance standards have increased to about 90%. And then for the industrial sectors, for example, some infamous industrial sectors like tannery sectors, like textile sectors, under the Namami Gange program, grant 75% or even 100% grant is being provided for upgradation and creation of CTPs and common effluent treatment plants. For example, we are funding common effluent treatment plant at Jajmo in Kanpur for tannery sector, and then thrust is also on recycling reuse for the industries, and one of the significant examples happen to be paper and pulp sector, which has achieved about 80% of reuse and recycle philosophy. Next, please. And then see, a lot of wastewater is being generated, it is let into the system. The endeavor should be that nothing of it is released into the system. So towards that, we have started a process for formulation of a framework for national policy for safe reuse of the treated water. And this will lead to a lot of gains, ultimate lot of gains, because it looks at standards, it also looks at business models, it also looks at incentivizing the reuse paradigms among the various stakeholders. And then one of the most important thing is it will try to dissipate the current stress on the freshwater resources, because industries and many of the sectors will be forced to reuse the treated water in for their process requirements. For example, there is energy tariff policy of Government of India, wherein any these thermal power plants located within 50-kilometer radius of STP, they are bound to use the treated water from the STPs, and any cost, consequent cost, has to be passed through cost in terms of the tariff towards the consumer. So these endeavors through this policy have been taken. Next, please. Yeah, and taking a cue from this national framework, many of the states have also have formulated their own policy, either in a draft format or they have finally adopted a policy. And then there is also a national process of convergence of various efforts that is going on. For example, national flood fecal sludge management policy, national water policy, national urban sanitation policy, which is being drafted, and then policy for zero liquid discharge for the industries. There is a convergence going on between Namami Gange and Amrut mission, Swachh Bharat mission, and so on and so forth. So this is this rejuvenation efforts has also led to convergence of various national efforts in the same direction. Next, please. Yeah, I've spoken that. Next, please. Yeah, for example, one of the model which we have adopted for Mathura is that about 20 million liters a day of the treated water will be used by IOCL facilities at Mathura. So that much amount of the water, fresh water, will be saved in the river Yamuna, which happens to be stressed in terms of the quantity of the water. So it is like creating an environmental sustainable and also looking at green sustainability for the riverine ecology. And then since reuse is through a business instrument, so the operators of the STP will be forced to provide the water of certain standards to IOCL in that fashion. So this is one of the initiative which I thought can be presented to the fellows. Next, please. Solid waste management, we have endeavored to ensure that floodplains remain free from dumping the solid waste by the municipalities. And accordingly, we had deployed trash steamers also at various ghats. So we had trash steamers to catch the floating trash at 11 locations. Ghat cleaning exercise at 234 locations is continuously going on. So these are some of the efforts to keep our floodplains free from solid waste. Next, please. Now, all these efforts should lead to better water quality. A concurrent problem for water quality monitoring of the river at 94 locations through manual water quality stations, and also real-time 44 real-time water quality locations is ongoing through central and state regulators, pollution control boards. And I must tell the fellows that Ganga has improved DO level at all locations along the river. In fact, in terms of bathing standards, dissolved oxygen levels happen to be healthy all along the river. And this is going to increase in times to come. Similarly, BOD is concerned in only few stretches, but almost in all stretches, BOD situation has also improved. A very focused water quality monitoring efforts are also going on. Next, please. Yeah, next. Next, please.
So, Aviral Ganga is particularly in the slide.
So then I'll come to this Aviral Ganga concept. In fact, continuity of the flow in the river is very, very important. A lot of efforts. We have notified for the first time environmental flow for Ganga. And we have also been focused in wetland and spring mapping conservation, floodplain protection, as I was saying, for sustainable agriculture. These are the efforts on demand side management, afforestation, biodiversity, as well as looking at the small rivers, because they happen to be the arteries to the main rivers. Until unless our small rivers remain rejuvenated, the main stem of the river will always be a problematic stretch. Next, please. So Government of India has notified through a gazette notification the environmental flows for the Ganga up to now, Kanpur. There are focused efforts for management of the demand, as well as other efforts for conservation of wetlands, water bodies, floodplain wetlands, aquifers, as well as rainwater harvesting. Next, please. Yeah, as spoken. We have in fact notified that floodplain. We have earmarked a buffer zone wherein there shall be protection as well as regulated zones on the banks of River Ganga, and the states are to notify it through a legislation. So these are very, very important steps. In fact, floodplains are the zones which recharge the groundwater. Unless the groundwater situation is healthy, because ultimately it is groundwater only which reappears in form of flows in the rivers during the lean season. So this happens to a very important component. Next, please. And then we are looking at sustainable agriculture in Ganga Basin through Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. We are also looking at organic agriculture through the same ministry. Next, please. Agriculture is something which happens to be a distributed source of pollution, and therefore efforts for organic farming, etc., is very important. And then wetland is very, very important. See, these are the sustainable sources which sustain the riverine ecology during the lean season. And first of all, in fact, through a governance, wetland authorities have been constituted by the states. We have prepared detailed conservation plans for 226 wetlands. In fact, a project in UP is underway. We have also developed a toolkit for urban water bodies and the urban wetland management through NIUA and School of Planning and Architecture. So we are looking holistically at these issues also. Next, please. As I've said, afforestation, biodiversity conservation is a very important component. We had through Forest Research Institute a big program going on for afforestation. National Dolphin Conservation Program. Recently, Honorable Prime Minister also highlighted this thing that dolphin is a species which can be declared as a highest order species. And this is being attempted through community involvement. A large cadre of Ganga Praharis and Bal Ganga Ganga Mitra and NYKS volunteers are involved in these community efforts. And these efforts also look at the livelihood improvement along with the conservation of the aquatic biodiversity. Next, please. Yeah, I was saying that small river conservation, we have prepared an inventory. We are in touch with the state district authorities, district Ganga committees to look at these small rivers, and a lot of these efforts have been catalyzed through under Manrega program, through Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And a very good effort is going on for these small tributaries. A large number of small tributaries are being taken up through our district Ganga committees. Next, please. Well, yes, creating a people river connect is very important. Right kind of message is to go in the society. We have created a large number of river fronts and ghats and crematoria. We have been holding Ganga Quest, variety of variety of events to connect the people with the river, to keep them to keep the children also engaged with this. So next. Obviously, the efforts are that people should visit the river banks, the river fronts, and they should have a sense of ownership also. Next. Yeah, these are some of the efforts, some of the activities that we have been undertaking. For example, Ganga Quest, Ganga Utsav. We have a rafting expedition from Devprayag to Ganga Sagar, and other kind of events also are being annually organized to involve the community in various efforts. Next, please. Yeah, some of the pictures are there. Next. Yeah. So looking at technology role. Next, please. We call it Gyan Ganga. Next, please. I'll just there are a few slides. Yeah, we see we need to create a base map of baseline conditions. What is the condition of the river as of present? So about 50,000 square kilometer of the river buffer zone, 10 kilometers on both sides, is being mapped with the help of Survey of India at a very high resolution of about 20 centimeter resolution. So this will assist us not only in flood management issues, but also creating a baseline for the urban centers as well as for the river as a whole. Next, please. As I was saying, this is being done. Digital elevation models are being created using lidar camera. About 50,000 square kilometer area is being mapped, and this is one of the biggest exercise that is being undertaken in this project. Next, please. We are also looking at mapping the microbial diversity of the river Ganga, and this is very important. For example, fecal coliform, the sources of fecal coliform, genome mapping of these bacterial microbial diversity in the river, so that a legacy data is created, and we can look and understand various issues related to microbial population and diversity in the river. Next, please. We have also been looking at spring rejuvenation again through Central Groundwater Board and Survey of India. We are inventorizing the springs in 2 districts, and then management of these springs through state departments will be taken up. These districts are Tehri Garhwal and Rudprayag district in Uttarakhand. Next, please. We have also been looking at revival of some of the paleo channels, which can be used to store the flood waters in their aquifers, which can be utilized in the lean season for rejuvenation of the rivers. So this study is underway through NGRI, National Geophysical Research Institute, CSR Institute, and Central Groundwater Board. Next, please. As I was saying, that a very focused effort to look at river-centric urban planning. this project we took it up through with NIUA and School of Planning and Architecture. We have developed a toolkit also, and the efforts out of this project has been acknowledged in form of incorporations in recent draft master plan for Delhi of 2041. It looks at regulation of activities in the floodplains, pollution-free river, rejuvenating the river water bodies and wetlands, creating a riparian buffers along the rivers, reuse the treated water, good quality of the return flow, eco-friendly riverfronts, engagement of the citizens, leveraging on other issues also, and so on. Next, please. So this thought process has been given a go ahead, and this exercise is going to be replicated in other towns also. Next, please. Yeah, thank you. So a glimpse of various efforts in different directions and different subjects and different modules have been presented through this presentation, although it took a bit long. I never expected that. So without further, without any more anything more from me, I'll straightway invite the fellows for the queries on. I know there are a lot of queries. I may or may not be able to provide the answer to all of them, but I'll love to provide answers to them. The alternate way can be that the queries can be dropped and I'll try to respond them through email, etc. So meanwhile, for another 5-10 minutes, we can take few questions and then yeah, please.
Yes, I think we can. Yeah, we can raise hands so that I can kind of call by name. Yeah. Okay, Harshita, please.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is, trash skimmers are being introduced into the rivers for removing the trash. But what about the microplastics? It may have effect on the aquatic animals, fishes, dolphins, etc. So have we introduced this thing?
Shall I answer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's a very important question. See, how does microplastics enter the system? The best way is to arrest any source, any problem at the source itself, then to take the trash, etc. So in fact, these microplastics and all this solid waste enter the rivers through drains which outfall into the river, right? So what we have done is there are about 795 drains, small and big, which outfalls into River Ganga. And we have made efforts to see that all these drains within 1 kilometer of their mouth into the river, they have a trash rack which arrests any solid waste which flows into the river. See, the management of the solid waste is a responsibility of urban, our urban local bodies. But other than that, we have been supporting them financially as well as through technical inputs to not to allow any dumping on the floodplain, disallow any floating trash, including plastics and microplastics, through trash arresters on the mouth of the drains. So, and also overseeing that these trash arresters are regularly cleaned, and their cleaned components, cleaned waste, is taken to certain sanitary landfill sites. So this exercise is going on. I acknowledge that microplastics happens to be a very important and very difficult subject, but this is an effort to at least see that the surface of the river happens to be the clean, other than river water quality.
Thank you, Kripa. You had raised. Kripa.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Sir, you have mentioned about the improvement in DO and fecal coliforms level in Ganga. So can you tell us in numbers that how much of percentage that improve? Because fecal coliform levels in Uttar Pradesh is very worse before 2014, before this Namami Gange project has introduced. So can you tell us in numbers if you have any data regarding?
Yeah. Yeah, true. See, Mr. Patel, let me tell you very clearly that fecal coliform are the class of the bacteria that are associated with fecal contamination, right? Now,
Right.
now
Right,
these
sir.
are the bacteria which will proliferate when ambient conditions are available. For example, organic matter is available as a food,
Hmm.
temperature, and these things are available. So
Right.
even if
Yes, sir.
there is one fecal coliform, it will tend to multiply exponentially, geometrically. One
Right,
will
sir.
become 2,
Right, sir.
4, 16, 256, and so on and so forth. Right?
Right.
So you are true that in 2015 situation, 2014, prior to that situation was pretty bad. Situation improved a lot after these interventions. Many of these STPs are under construction. Now, how do we prevent any fecal contamination? Either you will have to chlorinate it or you will have to irradiate it through UV rays, right?
Hmm.
So as to
Right,
remove the
sir.
last bacteria. Now, there are certain stretches, for example, stretches near Varanasi, stretches downstream of Prayagraj in UP, in West Bengal, where the fecal coliform count happens to be high. In fact, high to an extent that it runs to the figures of about, say, for example, 10,000 or 50,000 or even more than that, right?
Yes.
But largely upstream of Kanpur, fecal coliform content and total coliform are within the standards. Below Kanpur, in stretches of Prayagraj, in stretches of Varanasi, and in stretches downstream in West Bengal, fecal coliform count has been cause of worry. And with the coming of these STPs, this count will come down. But then see, whenever there will be overland flow, river wash, land wash, because this fecal coliform is also contributed by bovine population, by avian droppings, and these kind of
Hmm.
things. But yes, as I was saying, at some places the figures are in 20,000, 25,000, 15,000. And in some West Bengal stretches, the figures are much higher than that. But
Right.
largely, things are under control.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
We'll take one last question, sir, from Sadan, and then, yeah, because you have to also go for the meeting. Sadan, last question.
Am I audible? Good morning, sir. Good
Yes, you
afternoon,
are.
everyone. Yeah. So, sir, as we all know that it is the fundamental properties of river, that is self-purification of water streams. But the basic problem with Ganga lies is that it does not has water throughout the year. It is observed that in many parts of the country we observe water in Ganga only during. So this is one of the basic reasons कि Ganga का purification नहीं हो पाता, because if self purification will take place, then more 60% से ज़्यादा organic pollutants जो है वो खुद ही nullify हो जाएंगे. So I what the government is doing, to keep the pace of the water in a continue, like like city in Ramganga, I don't observe water throughout the year. It is like usually rained. So this is what I wanted to know, because irrigation is the key.
Uh, See, when I speak of Ganga, I can tell you that so far as quantity of the water is concerned, main stem of the river carries enough amount of the water. See, you are very right. I can have STPs all along, have a water which conforms to BOD standards of 10 ppm. But until and unless there is fresh water available, that water will not be, I mean, nobody will like to dip his finger into that water. So availability of fresh water is a prerequisite. For example, if you look at Yamuna in Delhi, downstream of Wazirabad or Hatli Kund, there is none of fresh water available in Yamuna. The result is whatever water in Delhi is there, it is consequent of the return flow from Najafgarh drain, and it is about 2,500 MLD. And this is entirely 100% sewage, treated or untreated waste. So availability of fresh water is very important. Now, so far as Ganga is concerned, there is the quantity is not an issue. Water is sufficiently available. We have notified it. All the project authorities, there are 11 projects who are bound to release a minimum amount of environmental flows into River Ganga. And if they don't do it, they are liable to be penalized under EPR. Right? So quantity of the flow is not an issue in Ganga mainstem. Yes, quantity of the flow is an issue in the tributaries which are not fed from the glaciers, which are rain-fed tributaries. For example, Hindon, for example, Kali East, for example, Kali West, for example, Sai, for example, Gomti. These are the tributaries which happens to be problematic because they don't have a perennial source of water in form of the glacial bed. But for Ganga, there is sufficient amount of the water. Minimum quantity of the flow that is available in Ganga in any of the reach is, you can say, about 24 cumex. So 24 cumex is roughly, if you multiply it by 35, so it works to about 20 and 3, 6, about 800 cusecs. So that much amount of water is available during the lean season. Rains, yes, there is abundance of the water.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure there are a lot of questions. I have myself have some questions, but what we'll do is we will compile them up and from all of them and from us, and we will send it across to you whenever you have time or your team has time. If some light can be shed on that, it'll be really great.
Or if I mean, I can suggest it. We can have half an hour of question hour sometime later also. I'll love to join the group. I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, I think that's much better. If we can have it one-to-one, that'll be much better. So we can just fix up the time and within today and tomorrow, and can see that. So that'll be really fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Thank you
very much, sir.
Thanks a lot. And good luck to all the fellows who have joined here, and best of luck for their future career. Thank you. Maybe we'll join again. Yeah, thank you.